Hello viewer, welcome to Chungu Jamii. My name is Betty Akuku. I am your host today and I am joined by a beautiful lady who is going to be taking us through a very important topic. If you have had any issues in your life, I know for sure you don't want to miss this episode of Chungu. We are talking about self-care and we are going to be narrowing this down to emotional and mental wellness. Please join us even as I introduce and welcome my guests. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Alice Jamii. I am a life coach and I help women become more self-aware and discover their abilities so that they can create more purpose, more success and more happiness in their lives. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Wow. Welcome, Alice. Good to have you. And talking about self-care, please tell us what this is, because a lot of times you just assume that taking care of myself, just taking a shower, taking food, and maybe walking around. What exactly is self-care and how much of self-care does one need?
Good question. Mm-hmm. The thing is, most people think that, like you said, self-care is just taking a shower, putting on good clothes, and probably smelling nice, mm-hmm. and that is it. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we think that we do, but we don't do it as much as we should. We should do it. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, it comes from the conditioning that we had as kids, mm-hmm. that we were taught to always put others first. Mm-hmm. That self-care, self-love is the same thing as selfishness. Mm-hmm. So we don't get to intentionally take care of ourselves, which affects us and also affects other people as well. Because like what people say, mm-hmm. you cannot pour from an empty cup.
True.
But that's the thing. Most of us are busy pouring onto others. But the thing is, we don't really take care of ourselves intentionally. Mm-hmm. Self-care means intentionally tending to our own needs. Mm-hmm. And like you had mentioned earlier as we were starting, mm-hmm. the emotional and the mental part tend to be, most of the time, tend not to be prioritized. Mm-hmm. We always think about taking care of ourselves physically, and we know that we should take care of ourselves spiritually, mm-hmm. but we rarely take care of those two, the emotional and the mental part, okay. which are very crucial for our whole well-being.
I like what you say about selfishness, differentiating that from self-care. I'm thinking of a woman who is a mom and has lots of things in her space that she actually needs to take care of. Mm-hmm. She does this at the expense of herself. And so talking about self-care, I would like to know precisely, even to relay this to those who are watching us today, when you take care of yourself, what exactly are you supposed to do? Because everyone knows, even the most dirty people know they should take a shower. Mm-hmm. Everyone feels hungry and they need to fill up their tummy. And you need to go to work and you have to go to work. And I also like what you mentioned about pouring and from an empty cup, where are you supposed to refill from? Where is this source? How are you supposed to take care of yourself intentionally?
Good question. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can just start with this analogy that flight attendants usually use when mm-hmm. you're on a plane. When you get on a plane, before the plane starts off, the flight attendant always gives instructions. Mm-hmm. And part of what they do is they share that in case of an emergency, and the oxygen masks come out, the first thing you're supposed to do is put on your oxygen mask first, mm-hmm. before your
life jacket.
Yes, mm-hmm. and then you can be able to help others. Funnily enough, if we were to we don't use that mm-hmm. analogy in real life. We're always taking care of others. Like you mentioned, you're probably a mother, you're an employee, mm-hmm. you're a wife, you're a sister, you're a child, and there are all these responsibilities that we have, but we rarely get to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like, it's amazing that I will meet you and I will ask you, how are you? Betty, how are you today? But we rarely get to sit and ask ourselves, How are we doing? Yes. How am I doing mentally? How am I doing emotionally?
True.
And like you had mentioned earlier, it's a conditioning that we were brought up with. There's all these thoughts that we have. There's all these beliefs that we have been brought up with. And society has we've generalized that and accepted that. And what we have are a lot of emotionally drained people who are running on empty. And the thing is, which is so sad, is we have normalized that. It is not normal to be emotionally drained. It's not normal to be mentally drained. But that's the thing, that's what we know.
And that's what we do.
Exactly.
At least I like that the society has such great demands on humans. And Chungu actually exists to address society and community issues. And what I like is that you are here today to address us on these issues. You know, when people want to get anything, like I had mentioned to you, I think in our previous conversation, that you could get anything you want from Google. But when people meet with others who have gone through the personal experiences that they are going through, then they can visualize that differently and make some changes in their lives. What's your story? Have you been to anything that led you into becoming a coach and trying to check and learn your emotions and anything like that? Or did you just wake up one morning and realize that I'm not taking care of myself, so from today I need to take care of myself? What was lacking in your
For me, it was a long journey, a journey of self-awareness, which I happen to be a very big proponent of self-awareness, because I keep on saying self-awareness is the foundation for transformation. Most of us think we are self-aware. In fact, statistics share with us that 90%, 9 out of 10 people think they're self-aware, but in reality,
it's not.
It's not true. We are self-deluded. We think we know ourselves, but we don't. And just speaking from my own end, I thought I knew myself. As in, ungeniambia anything, I'd have been like, what? As in, I know myself, and I know myself pretty well. And that was questioned. I got to question myself after I went through a divorce in 2017. And life happened, and I was, on a downslide. And I remember thinking, okay, this is not what I signed up for.
I know.
I never imagined, this happens to other people. We always
Not
think,
you.
yes.
I know.
How
long had you been married then?
We had been together for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
So and you just scrap everything and throw it in the trash bin.
It is not easy. It is not.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. It's a process that takes so much toll on your mental health, your emotional health, your physical well-being, your spiritual well-being. It's not an easy place to be at. And the reason I keep on talking about and preaching about self-awareness is because I want to share this message, because I don't want a lady to get to a point of getting divorced to ask themselves this question. I don't want someone to get to a point of getting unwell to start asking themselves that question. You don't have to get into a black hole to now ask, how did I get here? Ask those questions beforehand.
When you're still sober, when you're still married.
Exactly.
Okay, so for you, you went through divorce. It has been 3 years, I guess, now.
Yeah, it's the 4th year.
Mentioning 2017, yes, the 4th year. So you had stages until you got to a point where you were able to heal. Did you ever heal?
I can say healing is a process.
Yes.
I don't think you ever get to say, you're 100%, I'm 100% healed.
Yes.
And it's the same thing as self-awareness. I don't think you ever get to say, I know myself 100%.
Okay.
Because every time something comes up, you get to unfold into, into a new discovery about yourself. And the same thing in the healing. Healing is a journey. It's a daily practice. It is not something that you'll actually say
just happens.
Yeah. But
so when you got hurt, I guess divorce is really hurting and traumatizing.
Yes, it is.
If I want to imagine that you probably had children, there were a lot of things that were running down your mind, like, do I leave? Do I not? How about my children? Who goes with them? Where do, all these things, I guess, were such a trauma inside of your head.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, you skipped and said, I'm going to do this, How was that for you? Of course, very painful. How did you deal?
It wasn't an easy process. I keep on saying no woman ever wants to just wake up and leave the house, you know?
Yes.
So it is not something that you just wake up and decide, nimechoka naenda. It's a process it's a mental process and a very taxing mental process. And speaking on my end, it had gotten to a point where my mental well-being was at risk. My emotional well-being was not even, I was not taking care of myself emotionally. There were all these, when you're going through that process, there are all these emotions. It's a whole roller coaster of emotions. You're scared, you're anxious, you're worried about the future. Believe me, you're worried about what the society will say. You're worried about being lonely. You're worried about being able to take care of yourself and your children. It's a very taxing and a very...
Those things you are mentioning, Alice, actually makes me realize how difficult it may be, because if somebody was suffering from, let's say, blood issues and has cholesterol levels going high, and they have blood sugar and they have high blood pressure, things that you could actually go to the doctor and they're able to measure, even if it's your temperature, they're able to use a thermometer and get it is 39, it is 40, and then you need to run to the ICU, you need to do this and this, But now when you're so angry, when you're so emotional, no one can actually test and see that the emotional levels have gone this high and this is risky, something is going to happen. Someone is this angry, they're just going to throw in the towel and commit suicide. You cannot measure, because there are things that are so internal. There are great heart matters that may not just be tested by a doctor. There are things you'll run into a physician and tell them, check my anger levels, check my anxiety levels, And so you find yourself in a place where you precisely don't know what to do and you lose yourself. There are things that have happened in our nation and many things. And you find people call out serikali's idea, my neighbors don't even care, my sisters have neglected me, my family has isolated me. And people have several of these kinds of complaints. And when I listen to your situation, kinda requires that somebody comes in to give help, because if you are that lost and the doctor cannot measure the level of anger, anxiety and fear and worry, then what do? You probably need help from outside. But you are telling us that it is important to take care of ourselves. When I am in this situation, how do I take care of myself?
Like you've mentioned, unfortunately, for either mental or emotional wounds, no one can look at you and see that. And like maybe having a physical wound, you've been cut here, and you enter the room, you're bleeding, and probably you're crying, and people will feel sorry for you. No one will ask you why you're acting like this, because they can clearly see that you've been hurt. Yeah. But now when it comes to mental or emotional wounds, it's totally different. And plus, we have been conditioned by society to not speak about these things. A woman is supposed to be strong. A man is supposed to kuvumilia and, get things
cry in the toilet.
Exactly, which is what is actually really ailing a lot of people. And that's why emotional and mental self-care is very important. We rarely get to check in with ourselves, which is a very crucial part of both mental and emotional self-care. Like how, when it comes to emotional self-care, it's good to just ask myself, how am I feeling right now?
Yes, because no one can see my emotions inside. So it is me to sit down and analyze and self-diagnose if that is possible. Where do I start from?
Good question. And coming from the background that a lot of the things that we have learned about emotions, sorry to say, but they're all wrong.
Okay.
And reason being, we have been taught, or we were conditioned to think that we're always supposed to be happy. So if you have emotions that you're not feeling so
Contrary
happy,
to happiness.
exactly, then you think there's something wrong with you. We have been taught that there are good emotions and there are bad emotions. Like probably a good emotion would be happiness, joy, being passionate. And a bad emotion would be like fear, anxiety, uncertainty. But that's not true, you know. Emotions are just emotions. They are data. They are just energy in motion, and at any point they're telling us how we feel.
Yeah.
But now that's the thing, we rarely get to understand our own emotions. Yet we are emotional beings, you know. We are wired
True.
to be emotional creatures.
Yeah.
But it's amazing that we kind of like ignore that bit. Yet it is such a big part of our lives, because emotions drive our behaviors. Emotions drive our state of thinking. Imagine you have had a very rough time at work, and then you're still carrying it home. Your kids are there, your spouse is there. Most likely you're going to just bleed on them. You're going to be mad at them for, maybe they did something small, you're going to snap. And it has nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with you.
Where you're coming from.
Exactly. So how exactly do you take care of that? And the first thing we need to do is be aware of our own emotions. Like I had mentioned earlier, we rarely get to ask ourselves, Alice, how am I feeling right now? And not just ask myself, how am I feeling, but where did that come from? You know, most of us cannot even be able to tell whether we are feeling angry, or we are feeling anxious, or we are feeling irritated. We cannot be able to point out exactly. And that's because we were not taught, you know. When we were kids, ukilia, you're told, shut up.
Yeah.
When unless, like we were saying earlier, unless you've hurt yourself, that's when you'll be told, oh, sorry. We were never taught how to express ourselves. We were not taught how to say, I am annoyed because of 1, 2, 3. I am fearful of this 1, 2. So every time we'd have those emotions, we just go blank. We don't know how to process them because we don't even understand them. Then fast forward, we are grown-ups who we don't know. Exactly.
We just move on into other people's lives with baggage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what happens is, like for example, maybe if you're married and your spouse is coming in late at night, you're seated there getting worked up, but why are you really getting worked up? What is the real issue behind it? We don't, most of the time we don't get to ask ourselves and process those feelings. Why am I feeling this way? I'm feeling this way because I'm feeling ignored. Probably I'm feeling like he's taking me for granted. We rarely think like that. We just think, Misangapi hajafika. So he comes in, you're so angry, meal by mouth for the next 3 days, you're not talking. Have you started anything? You haven't. So taking care of our own, emotional well-being first requires for us to be aware. To be aware of, before we can even talk about processing those emotions.
Yes.
You can't process what
you don't know.
Exactly. And that's the thing. First, you have to be aware, acknowledge, then try and understand where those emotions come from. Yeah.
Because when I hear you also, I get that when you are able to self-diagnose, then one of the things you need to do is to contemplate, to sit down with yourself and think deeply and analyze and check, why is this? Why am I angry? Is it valid? Do I really have to do this because of what has happened? How can I deal with this?
Exactly.
So how did you, Alice, get to move on just one footstep forward at a time? after you were so much beaten, you know, and afraid and so fearful, you know, how did you now begin to take care of yourself?
It's a process. It's a daily journey, and it requires so much bravery and courage, because you have to ask yourself the hard questions. Like I had to ask myself, so I don't like it. I don't like feeling like this. I don't like being here. But instead of saying, alifanya hakufanya, so what role did I play? How did I end up here? And it starts with acceptance, you know. Most of the time we are always blaming the other people. We take on this victim mentality, you know. It's them who are doing this. It's their fault. I'm feeling this way. But for you to be able to move forward, you have to take responsibility.
Okay, the victim mindset.
Exactly.
I had to mention the victim mindset. Okay, Alisa would like us to take a short break right here, and then when we come back, we'll be talking more on how to take care of ourselves. So viewer, we are taking a short break. Our SMS line is 21144. We also have a Facebook page. We are live on GBS TV Africa. Do join us after this. Welcome back, viewer. We are talking about self-care, and we are leaning on emotional and mental wellness. As I said earlier, I am here with Alice, who is telling us her story and also how we need to take care of ourselves as opposed to waiting for others to take care of us. So, Alice, we are here again. You were telling us how you try to take care of yourself after going through a painful process of divorce that you did not sign up to. And one of the things you mentioned is self-awareness. You've got to know who you are before you can properly take care of yourself, other than just, you know, sleeping all day and crying all day and blaming all day, and you ended up at the victim mindset. Yes. How else are you supposed to take care of yourself?
Apart from that victim mindset, we really have to ask ourselves the hard questions. We have to accept of the situation. And accepting the situation does not mean that you have failed and umekubali and that's it. My idea of acceptance is you're no longer struggling, you're no longer fighting with those thoughts. You know, you're accepting your situation as it is. And once you accept your situation as it is, you're inviting other possibilities, other thoughts to come in. Because the thing about, even when we talk about depression, it's because you're fighting against something. You're not being yourself. You're resisting either maybe a change that is happening in your life, or you're not being authentic. So that is where self-awareness comes in. A very huge chunk of it. And I keep on saying self-awareness, self-awareness. Jijue, jielewe, jitambue. And self-awareness comes in, you know, just there are tips that we can actually use on a daily basis. And the first is maybe you can think about, why do I have the thoughts that I have? You know, because it's amazing that we have so many thoughts. Like an average adult has between 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Out of all those thoughts, 90% are the same thoughts we had yesterday. And the same thoughts we had yesterday and the same thoughts we had. We keep on repeating the same thoughts. We keep on repeating the same patterns. Yet we are waiting for something new.
Yeah.
So a very huge part of that is just asking, why do I think the way I do? Because we all know that we think, but we rarely, hardly ever get to think about why we think about what we think.
Even to evaluate the thoughts.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And a part of, a very big part of mental self-care is just watching your thoughts, you know? Just observing. We have this ability to be able to think and observe our thoughts. And it's very crucial to observe our thoughts. And once we do, we'll find out, for a majority of us, we are our own worst critics, you know? We have this inner critic that is always inatutoa makosa, you know? So why am I this dumb? Why am I always getting things, you know, wrong? Why don't I get things right? Why am I so stupid? There's a whole lot of self-talk, negative self-talk going on. And we don't get to catch that because it's very unconscious. And that negative self-talk actually attributes to a very huge part of stress. And of course, you know, stress leads to
depression.
Exactly, which and it can also lead to physical disease.
Yeah.
And so taking care of even that self-talk that we have is a very huge part of taking care of ourselves mentally. Yeah, just observing ourselves, being kind to ourselves, being compassionate. Because like if I was to use my own example, like when I got to that point and I was asking, you know, how did I end up here? How was I that stupid to have done this or done that or not have done? And I had to change my thinking. I'm like, okay, it shall happen. I am here. So how can I grow out of this? What is the next best thing for me right now? And for anyone going through a divorce process, it's very overwhelming, both mentally, emotionally, physically. And like you said, it's easy for someone to see a physical wound, but when you're going through that process, it's hard for someone to see what you're carrying mentally and emotionally.
True.
And the thing is, if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of, if you have children, you won't be able to take care of children. And then there's this thing that we pass on the same patterns to our children. Then what do we say? We call them generational curses. But what we're doing is we're just passing on generational patterns.
Unconsciously.
Very unconsciously. And it goes back to self-awareness, just understanding what is going on here.
How do you just cut that moment and say, you know what? I have been hurt. I have, this has happened to me. I have gone through these terrible times, but I'm going to rise up. I'm going to go a different direction. You know, where do I get that strength to just wake up and decide in my mind and forget about pointing at so and so and so and so? Because if you have gone through divorce, are you going to lock yourself and say this man forever, yet he has moved on? The situation may never change unless you're waiting for him to come back and remarry you, you know. But if the situation is still stuck, bad as it was in the beginning, how do you make the turnaround and flip over and just say, you know what, I'm starting a new journey? Whatever society has to say, it will land on deaf ears. How do you just make that decision? Where to get that strength to just decide one morning and say, I'm walking on a new path of life?
It goes back to one thing, which is so crucial, which most of us don't think about, and that's just one: mindset. Mindset is everything. Mindset is what will determine where you head in terms of your direction with life, direction with your relationships, direction with your physical well-being, direction with your own self. It's all about mindset. And like you said, most of us have this victim mindset. Like, you know what, it's their fault. I did all I could. But once you have a growth mindset, because when we start talking about the victim mindset, is when we have a fixed mindset and we don't want to grow. And the thing about growth sometimes is painful. Growth sometimes is uncomfortable. And it goes back to self-awareness. And I keep saying it is so easy to blame you and to point out all your shortcomings than it is to look at myself, to look at the mirror and look at what about me? What about my shortcomings? What about my strengths? What about my weaknesses? What about I choose to grow? And that is where what you're talking about, that is where it comes from. It comes from this growth mindset. And like I mentioned before, it's not easy. It's much easier to just remain in the comfort zone and just blame the husband, blame the society, than it is to say, I want to grow, I want to do better, and I choose to. That's the thing, being very intentional.
I like the mindset idea. Anytime I would underline, bold that word, mindset. There are people who actually think, Alice, that they are too busy to take care of themselves. Do you think that is valid? Anything to go by?
It is not, because like it said, if you don't take care of yourself because you're too busy, at some point your body will shut down and you'll have to forcefully take care of yourself.
How much time do you need to take care of yourself? And what does it entail? Because there are people who have routines. They have morning routines. You know, you would wake up and do some walk or do some jumping jacks or some jogging. And then after that, you'll have maybe time to meditate. And as you meditate, what's going on in your mind, you're probably planning on, you know, what I want to do on this day, what I want to achieve, what are my goals that are set for this day, things like that, you know. How much time do I need to take care of myself? Is it such another burden?
No, taking care of ourselves is very important, and we should always prioritize. But what I say is, it is not like there's a template that says, when you wake up, do this, and then do this, and then take coffee, and then go for a run, come and pray. Everyone should have their own self-care plan.
Yes.
And don't pick whatever might work for me. Like, I love waking up in the morning and working out in the morning. I have a friend who works out at 10 p.m. If I was to say, hey, so-and-so takes care of themselves, I want to be working out at 10, I'd be lying to myself, because at 10, like, my goodness, my mind is just off. So it's all about getting to know yourself better. What works best for you? How do you take care of yourself? There's someone who will sleep for 4 hours and have enough sleep. And there's someone who will need 7 hours to be able to recharge. So it goes back to know yourself, which is, I think, the same thing that we'll keep on talking about, self-awareness. Know yourself. Jijue, jielewe, jitambue, know what works for you. Not what the society says, not what the spouse says, not what the parent says, not what the pastor says, but just know what works for you. Understand yourself, and then
after
grow
how
yourself.
long, Alice, did you get up to now talk about this, you know, your story to the society? When did you overcome the society? You know, society has, as I said earlier, has so much expectations on us. And it is the reason why we always stick with the victim mindset. Why? Because we always want to give an explanation. You know, it's not my fault. It's so and so. If it is not for them, I would not. If it is not for my husband, my children will not. If it's not for my boss, this would not be my life. We always want to give excuses and give explanations to whomsoever we meet, you know, because people are asking. People want to know. So how did you just overcome and say, you know what? Yes, this is my life. This is my story.
For me, it's been a journey. And initially, I had that mentality of, you know, in fact, I would meet with people and I'm just waiting for them to ask me what happened so that, you I can give them my sobby story and they'll feel sorry. Exactly. And they'll feel sorry for me. Then I feel good about myself. So it was a process until I think it took a couple of years, like 2 years. I'm like, wait a minute, for 2 years I've been singing the same song, but my life is still the same. It still sucks.
Exactly.
I don't like it. I don't like being here. I don't like, I can sing the same song for the next 10 years, but what would have changed?
So people just tell you sorry, and you are left the same person in the same condition.
They tell you, yes.
Yes, but your emotions are still intact, the same way, still hurting, still fearful. When you get back to your place, your home, you are alone, you are lonely, your thoughts, the 90% are still,
the same thoughts.
Exactly. Yes, so 2 years it took you to just overcome society and to stop giving excuses and explanations to people. How did you just shift now to a totally different, did you just turn the steering and say, you know what, I am taking the U-turn. Where it leads me to, I will find out when I get there.
I think it's for me, it got to a point where I got tired. And I keep on saying, until your problems annoy you enough, you'll just be accepting and going with the same story until one day you say, you know what, Punda mechoka, enough is enough. I can't.
You put down the baggage.
Exactly. I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. It has to, there's that, I don't know, mental snap that goes in your head. But the thing is, that mental snap happens, but your life doesn't change automatically.
No,
you don't. You don't get to say, okay, now I'm tired of this, and kesha your life is all, it's all bliss. No, it doesn't. And it just starts with that decision, you know. And I love talking about decisions because most of the time, your whole life can just change with one decision. For me, changed with, I'm tired of this. I want better. I knew deep down in my heart I was made for better. But at that point, I had no clue what better was. But I just knew I was not cut out for this. I just knew that. And it was more of now asking myself, okay, so if I wasn't cut out for this,
then what is the better thing I was cut out for? And where is it found?
Exactly.
I know.
And that's where I was talking about acceptance of, because most of the time we are just resisting. You know what? I have this has happened, but no, we don't want to accept.
So sometimes it takes you to be the one who just takes a risk, you know, and make that U-turn or turn to whichever direction. Where it lands you, you will discover later. Or do you need a support group, you know, to walk you through this journey? Because we are talking about self-care and people around you can hardly see what you feel inside. You know, they can only see, oh, you're adding weight, you're losing weight, your face is not glowing. That is what they can see. But deep inside your heart, they are unable to see. Do you need to shed off some friends? Was that your scenario? Did you get to a place where, you know what, I also don't need you? Did you get to a moment of declutter?
That happened. That happened when I started getting to ask myself those hard questions. I started doing an analysis of, you know, of my life. So where do I hang out? Who do I hang out with? If it's TV, what are the kind of programs I'm watching? What if it's books? What kind of material am I reading? How is it serving me? Is it helping me, or is it just wasting my time? The conversations that I'm having with my friends, at some point, I sort of cut myself off because I wanted my thoughts to be my own thoughts. And it was very scary, by the way, because once imagine you're used to doing something your whole life, you have this pattern, then I can tell you for a fact, I had gotten to a point where I had lost myself, that I couldn't even make a simple decision for myself about the kind of shoe I'd want to buy.
It got to that level. It's got to that level. Someone is asking me here what it takes to overcome your emotions, because like you say, if they had really drained you, you know, to the level that you don't even know your shoe size and what kind of shoe you want to wear, you're walking down the street and you can't tell which street which bus am I gonna take or where am I driving to. I mean, that can really be crazy. What does it actually take to overcome such kinds of emotions? You mentioned mindset. Is there anything else?
The second thing is people have different journeys, and you might need as a person to talk to someone.
Okay.
It's very important. It's very important if you can share with a friend, if you're the type of person who feels, if I share this, a burden shared is a burden halved. If I can share this, I don't know, with a good friend who will not be biased, because most of the time, of course, we share with our friends will side with us, and they'll tell us the things we want to hear instead of just telling us the truth.
I know.
So that happens. So if you can be able to talk to someone who's independent and will not give you a biased view, like a life coach, for example, then that would be good. Then I always say, know yourself, and please seek help. You know,
Seek help.
We are afraid or feel ashamed of looking for a therapist for help or for a counselor. Please, 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 if you're at that point where you know, and the thing is, we know when we've been so burdened, we've been so emotionally drained that we can't focus and we need help. We know
it, yes.
Please seek
Alice,
professional
we
help.
are unfortunately getting out of time. There's one thing I need to know. If you know, or if you knew what you know now, would you still have gone through divorce?
It's a good question. If I knew what I know now, honest answer is, I don't know. Most likely.
You're not sure if
I'm
you
not
would.
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I always say, please just get to know yourself. Get to understand yourself, because most of the time when we're in this marriage that is not working and we're thinking, if I get divorced, then it will be sorted. I always say we're taking one half of that marriage, of that partnership, of that relationship. We're taking it elsewhere. So take time to heal. Take time to understand yourself. Take time to know yourself.
I need to give us your parting shot, but what you said is very interesting. People always think when they divorce, the matters are going to be solved.
That's the thing.
And maybe you're the one who is the problem, and you're moving forward to the next marriage with baggage. Your last words, Alice.
My parting shot would be self-awareness, self-awareness, self-awareness. Just get to understand yourself. Get to understand your thoughts. Get to understand your emotions. Why do you do the things that you do? Just, even as you're just going through, the day, self-awareness is nothing complex. Just ask yourself, if you've had a meal, have I enjoyed this meal? Did I like it? If you've had a conversation with someone, did I enjoy the conversation that I had? If you didn't, then ask yourself why. Then you can make a decision whether you're going to be avoiding those kind of people or not. Just take time to just become self-aware. Understand yourself. Yeah, self-awareness.
Well, it's true. You can't take care of yourself if you don't know yourself.
Exactly.
And what ails you. Even the doctor, when they prescribe medication for you, it's according to the diagnosis that they have done. So you first need to know yourself before you can take care of yourself. Viewer, I hope that is much and well understood, that you have to first know yourself before you can take care of yourself. We have had such a lovely discussion with Alice. If you want more of this, please get to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. You'll get more of this kind. See you next time. My name is Betty Akuku. I have been your host.